Okay, welcome everyone to episode 7 of Movement Medicine podcast. Thank you to everyone that's tuned in so far. We've had some really good feedback. For those people who are watching the videos, please remember to subscribe to the channel and also like the video. Share with your friends, your family, your colleagues. We want to try and make this sort of spread to as far and wide as possible. Firstly, just like to thank our partners. So the Fit India movement, Back to Fitness Clinic, the La Ultra The High, and also Moving Mountains Within. We've got a very special guest today, and I will hand over to Rajat to introduce the guest.
Hi everyone. So today, really special, as Darren said, because we have Dr. Peter Gregory today. He was my course director in sports medicine at Nottingham. And, honestly, he's given me direction because I had no idea what to do with my MBBS actually before I met him. So thank you, Peter. Thanks for agreeing to come on board.
And pleasure, Rajat.
So Peter, just introduce yourself, please. Because I'll miss out on things. So other than Nottingham, please just get on with, your academic, and even before that, probably your playing days and, your sports and everything about that, the fitness journey.
Okay. Well, I guess it goes right back to childhood. Grew up in Oxfordshire in England on a small farm. So I was very privileged position that I got lots of space around me. And I was forever kicking a ball, throwing a ball, running, very active. Loved that part of life. Academically was doing okay, managed to get a place at St Thomas's Hospital in London to study medicine, and there I enjoyed a good 6 years of playing cricket, which was really my passion. I did an intercalated BSc, extended the course by a year, and my brother pointed out really it was just to get another year of cricket in, and he was probably right. So cricket was my thing in terms of sport until probably about 5-6 years ago, something like that. Loved cricket, tried to be a fast bowler, was never quite high enough standard to be professional or anything like that, but still it meant more to me than almost anything. From my medicine, I became a general practitioner and was happy doing that, and then I came across a course in sports medicine. It was a 5-day course at Lilleshall where England football team and gymnasts used to train, a very lovely area in Shropshire, and I had a 5-day course of sheer bliss studying something that combined my two passions, my sport and my medicine. And I hadn't really appreciated that there was a kind of concept of sports medicine to that point, but that introduced me to it, and I couldn't help but look for other opportunities, and those opportunities came about in Nottingham, where they were running an MSc. And to do that MSc, which Rajat, you also did after me, I had to leave my general practice post and give it a full year, full time to study. And that was great. I really enjoyed that. But didn't know what would happen after that. There was no obvious career structure in sports medicine. It was really finding our way. And I was fortunate enough to get a post back in Nottingham after another year, not directing that stage, but teaching on that course, as well as doing some clinics and some research. That soon became the directorship of the master's course, and that's where we met, and gave me an opportunity really to be immersed in sports medicine for it was 5 years really. During that time, was fortunate enough to become the first chief medical officer for the England and Wales Cricket Board. So I really put together my passion there of cricket and the sports medicine, and was associated with some change in success really of the England cricket team. Although only the doctor, we turned things around. We won the Ashes for the first time in many years on home soil, and somehow I got associated with that success and enjoyed that. Since then, I've been back in general practice, serving a more general population, and gave up my cricket as a weekend warrior, you might say, as I say, something more than 5 years ago, and really turned to running at that stage, to try and keep fit, and found something else that I enjoyed that was a little bit easier to fit in, and my cricketing skills were waning, so I think it was good to start on a different journey at that point. So it's been mainly running, a little bit of short triathlon sprint, that kind of thing since then. So I've always tried to maintain the fitness side of my life, as well as try and help people with any problems that have been caused by their sporting activity.
Brilliant. That's great. Thanks for sharing that with us, Peter. That really is a fantastic story. You touched on a few highlights there, particularly obviously the Ashes win on home soil. Were there any other highlights that you'd sort of like to share with us during your career with the England Wales Cricket Board?
That was certainly the pinnacle. I suppose right at the beginning there was a very successful tour of the West Indies, and the West Indies had been a place that I remember the England team being hammered by those great fast bowlers and batsmen for many years. And then we had a successful tour to the West Indies, and things were going pretty well. Come to the peak with the Ashes, and then actually things started to turn around again. We had a less successful tour of Pakistan and India after that. So yeah, it slid away a little bit at that point, but they've done well since. I stopped my association with the team in 2006.
And what about other sports, Peter? So what other sports were you involved in as a sports medicine?
I did some cover for the hockey team. Went on a tour to Pakistan with an England under-21s team. That was one of my first experiences going away on tour with the team. I also went with a British swimming team. We went to a hot weather and altitude training camp in Arizona, which was good. I covered some rugby matches and some athletics tournaments and those kind of things. But the majority of my time at Nottingham was in a NHS clinic that was, I suppose you could call it a waiting list initiative clinic. It was patients that had traditionally been referred into orthopaedics, and we were trying to really do all we could, short of surgery, to help people with their musculoskeletal problems. That was a good experience.
So those patients that you were seeing, Peter, were they sort of active? Were they sort of, the weekend warriors in sports and suffering musculoskeletal injuries, or were they just a general population who sort of was suffering lower back pain and those types of issues?
Yeah, they weren't selected out as being sports people, and they certainly weren't high-level sports. They were getting their care elsewhere. So there was a general population. I would say that probably less than 30% would have actually been classed themselves as sort of sporty or anything like that, but nevertheless have had musculoskeletal type problems, and probably I think some of them had musculoskeletal problems because of their lack of sports activity and so on. So there's a lot of knee pain to deal with. There wasn't so much backs, because that was referred into the spinal orthopedic team rather than general orthopedics, and I don't think we saw so many of those from what I remember. There was a lot of shoulder problems, knees. Yeah.
Peter, do you have your guitar close by, or?
It's in the vicinity. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do this now. I mean, why don't you sing for us, please?
You want me to sing? Okay, just bear with me.
What's the background to this song then, Peter?
Well, I think the reason that Rajat's asked me to sing is I posted a song online that I'd done that was really a bit of a social commentary of what was happening in the country. And you're probably very much aware that we're being asked to social distance because of the coronavirus crisis, and that's having various knock-on effects. And it just occurred to me that one of the songs that I'd been working on just to entertain myself, the words were fitting together quite nicely. So I think that's why Raja now knows that I sometimes play the guitar and sing at the same time. I'm really not sure whether you're going to need to do a strong bit of editing after this, but we'll give it a go. Have you seen the old man looking for a toilet? Used up all his paper before the end of March. He don't know if to hold it in. If he don't, there'll be no grin. His panic buyers bought it all in a rush. So how can you tell me you're clean and say to me that you are right up Andrex? Let me take you by the hand and lead me through the streets of Warwickshire. I'll show you conveniences to help you clean your behind. Have you seen the woman waiting outside Tesco? She won't get no shopping without an ID badge. The NHS will grab the lot. They don't care if she's old or not. She'd better watch out for the deadly virus in their snots. How can you tell me you're clean and say to me that you are right at Andrex? Let me take you by the hand, lead you through the streets of Warwickshire. I'll show you conveniences to help you clean your behind. Have you seen the young boy underneath the covers? He won't need to get up till 9 p.m. He could learn on Zoom without ever leaving his room. But if he won't improve his grades, cause the exam will never be. So how can you tell me you're clean and say to me that you are right out on Andrex? Let me take you by the hand, lead you through the streets of Warwickshire. I'll show you conveniences to help you clean your behind. And have you seen the old man? No, he's in self-isolation for 12 weeks. You hear that okay?
That was brilliant, yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a nice little interlude for the podcast.
You'll see.
Oh dear. So obviously you spent some time doing work focused on sports medicine. Why did you choose to leave sports medicine and focus on being a general practitioner?
I think with sports medicine, it had become very much focused on the elite end of sport. And after a while, I think I realised that I wanted to serve the general public more than that. And there was an opportunity to go back into general practice. And I took those skills back into general practice. So it seemed to work out well. Great.
And what difference do you see between sports medicine and GP practice? Is there much, or is it very similar?
No, I mean, you can practice as a general practitioner without an interest in sports medicine. I think it's difficult to practice sports medicine without having some general practice skills. I suppose there are certain roles that might be okay for that, but you do need that generalist approach in sports medicine. So really, I think dealing with the elite end, you're just dealing with a very small population. With general practice, we've just got a wider population, so we've seen a wider range of things, and we're under pressure to deal with them in a shorter space of time, really.
So what different perspective do you think you bring as someone with a background in sports medicine to general practice?
Certainly that almost in every consultation there's an idea that exercise and nutrition and exercise can play a part, and then it's the challenge of how do you get that into the consultation when there's an awful lot of other things to do. It works out more obviously in certain circumstances than others, but I think there's always a part to play if you take the opportunity.
And just taking this whole GP thing a little more detailed, in India, what's happened is there are hardly any GPs left. So that family doctor right around the corner, just missing because, and it's a demand and supply thing because everyone's looking for a super specialist for anything, for a cough to cancer to whatever else it be. So could you just please, for them, the audience sake, what is a GP in a traditional sense?
Yeah, a GP is your sort of first point of call. In the UK, you've got really two broad places. If you've got a medical problem, if it's of a traumatic nature or an emergency, then you go to casualty, go to A&E in the hospital. But otherwise, you go to your general practitioner. If it requires some kind of specialist equipment, specialist skills, then you might be referred on to the secondary care, to the hospital sector for that. But there's a discussion to be had first with your GP to make sure that's the right thing to do. So I think there's a bit of a danger if you go straight to those specialists without having some kind of expert advice as to whether you're going to the right person or whether it's really necessary. We deal with a vast amount of the problems that come to us without any kind of onward referral. So that would suggest to me that a lot of those trips to specialists aren't necessary.
Right.
Okay, that's really interesting. So moving on to our next point, obviously a lot of the focus with physical activity has been on sort of target these non-communicable diseases. And we picked up on this in yesterday's podcast. Obviously now we're in a position of lockdown where obviously we've become sort of very sedentary, limited to movement within our homes and in the UK to going outside for sort of 1 hour a day for exercise. What sort of importance would you play on sort of maintaining physical activity during this coronavirus lockdown period?
I actually see it as an opportunity that people are taking. I think they've rapidly realised that their level of activity could decrease, and they've got to do something about it. So, almost the first day that we felt in some kind of lockdown in this country, I went out for a run. I'm fortunate; I live out in the countryside, and it's quite easy to get to places where I'm 200 meters away from people, let alone 2 meters. And on my run, which was about, for half an hour, I think 20 to 30 cyclists passed me. I saw another runner and several people walking, which is far more than usual. So I think, the very first day, people realised that they'd got to get out and take that opportunity for an hour's exercise. And I've seen online there's a lot of movement-based videos and groups setting up to do exercise in their home. So I think there'll be quite a lot of people that are probably committing to some daily exercise who realise they should be doing it but not doing it before. I hope that's the case. I think it is. I think probably maintaining it may now be a problem. It's always easy to do something for a few days a week, but it's harder to keep going after that. So I think they'll need some encouragement. And there will be those that just aren't doing it, and we need to keep on keep on trying to make that possible. One of the themes in my general practice consultations is that you can do things that don't require a long period of time. You can do things that don't require changing into sports kit, and you can get benefit from them. So I have a notion of a microwave exercise or a kettle exercise. So when I say when they turn on their kettle, why don't they do, see if they can do 20 squats or something like that, or some one-leg dips, and then because that's a set amount of time, they can almost have their own little challenge and build upon that over a period of time. And I'm sure those exercises, those strength exercises, even done for a matter of a minute here and there, are a great benefit to us all, whether we're doing lots of exercise or whether we're otherwise doing none at all. So that's been a useful thrust in my consultations, to try and get people doing at least a little bit.
Right. And Peter, other than this whole coronavirus lockdown, I remember during a course, earlier it was called sports medicine, right? And people were then pushing it for, let's call it sports and exercise medicine. So the importance of this whole exercise medicine and for the general public, how important is it?
It's massively important. We've realised it for a long time, but I'm not sure that we're getting far enough with it. But we've got to get people exercising. It's got to start with schools and go from there. There's clearly more exercise in the UK going on now. There's, cyclists are all over the roads in a way. Certainly around my area, which is great to see. But even that presence on the road probably means for everyone that's out there, there's probably 100 that are not as well, and somehow we have to reach them and start the patterns early in life if we possibly can. Although it's never too late to start as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So do you think all doctors should be introduced to sort of sport and exercise medicine and the notion of physical activity and movement right from the start? So obviously I'm aware of certain MBBS sort of curricula where, there really is a lack of training in sort of physical activity and the basis of why exercise is so important.
I absolutely agree. And it doesn't seem to have changed really right from all those years ago when I was at medical school. I mean, I would say we learned virtually nothing about muscle at all in medical school. Certainly nothing about pathologies or injuries or anything like that. So it was only when I started doing sports medicine courses, which would probably have come, well, after over 10 years after starting medicine, that I had an introduction to it. And then when I was teaching at Nottingham on that course, we were trying to push to get some sports medicine or exercise medicine into the undergraduate curriculum. We achieved a little bit. I think we had probably 1 or 2 lectures in the year or something like that, and there was no guarantee it would go from year to year. I don't detect any difference in the undergraduates that are coming via our practice for some experience in GP land at the moment. It just doesn't seem to hold a priority that it should do.
And even taking it to the next level, right? I mean, in schools we have these PE classes and all that. They're there, but they're not really making an impact.
It doesn't seem to be, does it?
Yeah, so shouldn't we be pushing for something like similar? I mean, we're trying, but shouldn't they be there for some general population, whether they're medics or non-medics or corporate world, similar kind of a, telling them why is this needed and telling them about it? Because most patients who come to me, I have to actually educate them about the human body. So they're not aware why a quarter of our bones are in our feet. They don't know that fact.
No.
So is that kind of a worthwhile direction to go in?
So this is to educate across the board, not just at school, you're saying?
Yeah, across the board. Could
be, yeah, how we do it, I don't know though. But I mean, it's a nice idea. I fear at times with school that actually the school children, they are probably educated in this kind of thing more than they then give credit for. So a few years later, it's almost like they deny they've had any education at school at all. So somehow it's almost wasted on them, on a proportion of them. So the only option is to try and keep that message going through their life, really. And I suppose we're not going to get everybody to be receptive, but if we can find ways to make the message attractive and interesting, and to give a range of options how people can take that exercise as well, because we know that, you know, not everything suits everybody. Not everybody is going to be a runner. We might think they should, but they're not going to be that. So we've got to find other ways, haven't we, that they feel suits them.
So what are the common misconceptions or sort of myths that you would sort of highlight within your practice? Did you get patients coming to you who have sort of very different thoughts about certain things which you can really challenge?
Yeah, I think that the first one is the feeling that when we have a problem, we have to rest it. I've always warned against that, and there are probably some conditions where you do have to be mindful that rest is a part of it. But in general, I feel that the body responds better to trying to maintain a degree of activity. So it's probably tailoring your activity rather than the concept of rest in general. So that's what I'm often battling with patients. I suppose we get, in general practice, there's a lot of people who are directed to us when they try to embark on something active. Then there'll be this sort of disclaimer: don't start doing this unless you've seen your doctor. I often feel that as a doctor, we haven't got a lot to say about it, except, well, just get on and do it, really. There are very few situations that would be dangerous for them to actually take some exercise. So, yeah, generally it's a facilitating and telling people, yeah, it is okay, you can do it, you will benefit from it, just do it. I think the more specific thing that I find is that when we talk about running, people say, no, I can't run because that's going to affect my knees, and it's all this road running that affects my knees. And I just don't see that. Maybe it's from personal experience, but actually when I get a knee pain, the best thing I can do is go out and run on the roads, and then I can clear my pain for a few days. So yeah, I don't buy that one at all. I think that it's good for you. Yeah.
Good one, Peter, on this running thing. So between running and cricket, since you've now a runner more than a cricketer, right? So how do you compare the two things? Is cricket a real sport?
Cricket real sport. Yeah, you could say cricket's the sport and running is exercise. Yeah, it's only a sport for those that are in the first few in the race, isn't it? Yeah, no, cricket's definitely the sport. I still love it and am interested in it. I just don't play it.
Right, Peter. It was amazing having you over, and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for you. So thank you so much for everything.
It's a privilege.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much for joining us, Peter. It was really interesting having your thoughts on the podcast.
Thank you.
Right then, guys. So we'll sign off here and watch out for the next episode. And this was Peter Gregory, my mentor in sports medicine. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.